So today we are celebrating an important centenary, and we really have to go back to 1906 and ask the question, what psychiatric knowledge was actually available at the beginning of the 20th century? And this was indeed the beginning of the recognition of neurological syndromes and psychosis in adults, with a number of now recognized giants in neurology and psychiatry who first studied systematically and wrote about disconnection syndromes, brain pathologies in adults. And indeed, round about this time, the new words schizophrenia and autism were coined. More or less at the same time, there was already a first recognition of similar disorders in children. And these were given names such as dementia infantilis or dementia precoxissima, and even the term schizoid psychopathy in childhood was used, and I will say a little bit more about this. In 1908, a remedial teacher described disintegrative psychosis in children, and it's still recognized today as Heller's syndrome. But there was also another person, a Russian psychiatrist called Sukhareva, who in 1926 described schizoid psychopathy in childhood. This was a publication in a German journal called Monatsschrift für Psychiatrie und Neurologie. It is an excellent paper with 6 detailed case descriptions. It is quite clear that all the time Sukhareva assumes that there is a congenital brain disorder affecting cerebellum, basal ganglia, and frontal lobes. She mentions the relationship to work on dementia precox, in other words, schizophrenia, but also differences from this, and refers particularly to the school of Karl Kleist and colleagues who worked in this laboratory. I don't know about the life of Sukhareva, but it is possible that she herself was trained in this laboratory. When she wrote her paper, she gave Moscow as her address. In fact, she reported cases that she had seen over 3 years in a Moscow clinic. And what she said about these children, all boys, was that they had what she called autistische Einstellung, with a characteristic mode of abstract thought. I resist mentioning my mentors, Beate Hermelin and Neil O'Connor, who were part of this scientific revolution in the 60s, and they wrote up a book which appeared in 1970, which they called Experiments with Autistic Children. It is typical of their work that they used the then very new information processing models. They looked at the uneven profile of abilities in autistic children. They talked about specific deficits. They found out that these children had very good memory, even for meaningless stimuli, and relatively poor memory for meaningful material. Their conclusions in this book in 1970 were really along the lines that don't look at peripheral problems in input and our common denominator be found for this broad autism spectrum. And somehow, can the heterogeneity be explained by additional factors? Only time will tell. Thank you for listening.